What if love is more than just a feeling? What if it's a universal force shaping how we understand ourselves, our community, and the world? Welcome to the Philosophy of Love, where we break down the science behind love, how it influences our minds, our behaviors, and the way we connect with humanity. Join us as we explore the psychology of love as a driving force for empathy, growth, and understanding. You're watching the Philosophy of Love podcast with Juan Lee and Dr. James Brockington.
Well, hello, Doc. This is Juan, and this is Dr. James Brockington. How you doing, Doc?
And we are doing great, Juan. We are ready and doing great.
Hey, look, we almost started this without having a doggone recording today. we almost did this without recording it, and that's oftentimes how things happen with us. We get started.
You know how hot topics work,
and they just get going. And I tell you, this is no different. This is no different. For those that are just joining us, welcome. This is the Philosophy of Love presented by Clear Journey, a nonprofit that supports individuals that are looking for answers to life's challenges. And it's based on foundational on a book that I wrote, and it's called Love Made Simple. And it's a book that talks about a mindset, and it's about being able to navigate life in all stages of life. And so that book is the book that's the predecessor to everything that we talk about at Clear Journey and on all of its platforms. So that being said, welcome to Clear Journey. It's Philosophy of Love. And in this podcast, we really talk about the science or the philosophy of love, the science behind love, making it more understandable, trying to simplify it, because it's very, something very abstract in the sense of what it is. It's an emotion, a feeling. And what we try to do is we make it practical, and we try to make it love in action. And that's the process of really understanding what it's all about. If this is your first time here, please help us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Clear Journey Inc. If you could do that, that would really help us. We would appreciate that a lot. And if you want to know more about Clear Journey, go to clearjourney.org. You can find out more about Clear Journey. And I know for a fact you are going to see a lot of information over there about Clear Journey. If you would like to support us, you can do that over there. You can go over and donate. We would really appreciate any donation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so it is something that you can write off if you would like to support us. That book that I was talking about also, you can go over there and you can purchase that book also. And that will also support all of the proceeds from those books comes right here to Clear Journey to support us in our mission. And our mission is to help you. So that's what we are looking to do. In addition to that, we have some events that we do every month. It's an event called Brother to Brother, where you can actually come in, and we are an affiliate with another organization that really wants to give young men a foundation so that they can have resources and understanding just to talk out whatever the challenges they are. It's affiliated through the university in the local area. And then we also have a meetup group, which is we meet once a month on Tuesdays. And it's called Love is the Answer. And that's where we build a community of people who are desiring to change not only themselves, but as a result, changing the community. So we welcome you, and you can go over to Clear Journey again and register for all of those events that are there. It's not quite finished, but by the time you see this, it will be finished. But you will really see something really amazing over there at our website. And let me see, is there anything else? Oh, can't forget this. We would like you to have a free book. One of the pillars that we stand on is our financial support, financial literacy. And what we like to do is if you go over to clearjourney.org and you can pick this up just by saying you want it. It's a book, it's an ebook that you can download, and it's about it's very important that we're able to finance our goals and know that we can do them, but it takes us to be a very integral part in our finances. We can't just let things happen. We need to be engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the things that we have there for you. But by all means, go over there and see if there's anything. We're here for you. Anything there that can help you navigate life more successfully. That's what we're here for. Let me take that down, put that back up,
We'll put that back up.
and let's really, if you haven't noticed so far, today we're going to be talking about fear and love. Can they coexist? And you know, it's something that it's going to be a good conversation because the premise of this is about transformation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the transformation about what we do here at Clear Journey. It's about a transformation. It's about changing the way in which we process, the way we see things, the way we do things. And it's about transforming us so that we can reach our full potential, because many times we're following or we're doing things and we really don't understand why we're doing. We're just doing it. We become familiar with it.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is we want to transform. We want to be able to be our best selves. And that means it's going to constantly require us to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so this particular topic is a prime example of how love, the power that love has in the ability to be able to transform our lives once we fully understand what's the mechanisms, how those things are really how they're maneuvering us and changing us emotionally and physically and emotionally. So Doc, let's start it.
Well, let's do it. Yeah.
Let's start it. It's let's just drop it down. It's like the fear and love. Can they coexist? And I will tell you very much so. The premise is we talked about. I got this from the Bible where it talks about the perfect love cast out fear.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that, and what is that, and capable? How does that work in spite of the fact that they can exist, but do they have to?
In the most straightforward statement, both fear and love are emotions. As we've discussed in previous dialogues, emotions have one purpose, and that is to alert you to those things in your life that are occurring in this moment. It's called situational awareness. In this moment, that will influence the direction and the trajectory of your life. Up until the point where an emotion captures your attention, localizes you to this moment, you have been experiencing what is an alignment of the way you're thinking, critically thinking, and reasoning, so that behaviorally you are adapting, adjusting, and achieving momentum and direction in your life. That reality testing. What I'm putting in is what I'm getting out, sometimes referred to as your attitude in, your belief and behavior out, has been consistent for you until this moment when something now captures your attention. We call it in psychology the just noticeable difference between what was happening a moment ago and what's occurring now. In that acknowledgement of that different experience, you are challenging yourself to adapt and adjust to the circumstances and the situations you encounter. Now, that's the power of love, which is a living, organic, vibrant emotion coexisting with fear, which of all of the clusters of emotions we have, the most powerful, because fear defines for you with specificity what it is that you are encountering that's challenging your sense of stability and alignment to circumstance and situation. Here's a classic example. If you came into my office and told me you were afraid of cats, why would I talk to you about being afraid of water? What did you say you were afraid of? Cats. We already know internally and sympathically, in synchronicity with our environment, what it is that's challenging our sense of stability about it in this moment. That is why, again, fear and love coexist. Do they have to coexist? Is sometimes the question that people will ask. They don't have to coexist. They do coexist. And why do they coexist? For one very simple purpose: to clarify for you the meaning and the acknowledgement of this change that's going to influence the movement and direction of your life. We have 5 instincts that are being challenged by everything that we do as living organisms. And those 5 instincts are our sense of survival. It's the prime directive. We will do anything to survive, anything to survive. There's no moral aspect associated with that. There's no philosophical struggle associated with it. We're going to live. We're going to do what's necessary to live. Our sense of survival motivates us and drives us to overcome any obstacles that we may encounter in our environmental circumstance and situation. So whatever is confronting us, whatever becomes that just noticeable difference between what was happening a moment ago and what's occurring now, is within our capacity to understand, accept, and acknowledge. That's how thinking works. The moment we can think, we can understand the conditions and the limitations that are creating whatever it is we are encountering. We can accept, by that definition of understanding and those conditions and limitations, the purpose and meaning of what we are encountering. Once we can accept purpose and meaning, we can acknowledge what may be the most productive and beneficial way to proceed. That is how behavior now aligns itself to that thought process. So look at what I'm saying. The moment we can think, critically think and reason, which has been motivated by fear, the emotion, we can now incorporate the emotion of love, the logical, organic, vibrant emotion. We can now include that into the process by which we determine the most effective way to resolve this circumstance and this situation. Now, why is that significant? Because love also has the ability in its existence to challenge our awareness and our acknowledgement of that meaning and purpose. In many ways, Love directly is impacted by fear, and vice versa. Directly impacted by it. Love can sometimes cause us to grow. It can sometimes cause us to be vulnerable. It can sometimes result in us having anxieties, fear, anxiety, fear, growth, fear, the resolution of what the unknown has presented to us as something that is knowable. The moment something becomes knowable in the context of behavior, it becomes doable.
Yeah. You said quite a bit, and I just want to interject a little. I want to get we always get to this point though, and that is that ultimately, that ability to be able to critically think, that's limited to what your exposure is or exposure to in that process of doing that. So you're limited ultimately in the fact that if you are afraid, and you're limited to what it is you have as your options as it relates to resolving this moment. You this is where it's so very interesting, because what love does is it takes, in spite of your limitations, it draws you away from your fear in spite of your limitations.
As opposed to drawing you away from your fear, it clarifies for you what your fear is presenting to you as the message of the difference between your anticipation and your expectation. I anticipate that I'm going to, if I continue along the way that I'm going, I anticipate that I'm going to continue to have the kinds of engagements and interactions I've had. My expectation is, therefore, to continue to do what I'm doing. But in that instant, that just noticeable difference, when something now has materialized in my path, it compels me to resolve what this now means to my path.
Let's give an example of what we're talking about. Let's say we're struggling with our boss at work, and he's telling us that, or she's telling us that we have to work some overtime that we don't want to work.
Right.
The moment is now confronted with this moment. You're asked to do something that you don't want to do.
That you do not want to do.
You do not want to do.
You do not want to do it. So here you see the resistance. Okay.
Okay. So then the application here is that now I've got to do some critical thinking.
Precisely.
Okay. And the critical thinking is I have to evaluate the fact that I'm an employee versus being the boss.
That's a subset of it, but yes.
Or basically, what are my options here? I have to evaluate these options.
And your central option is very clear in the sense that if you don't do this overtime project, the likelihood that you will continue to be employed can be challenged.
Again, that's critical thinking.
That's critical thinking.
That's
so
critical
you are
thinking.
now you're now placing yourself in a position where is it more important that I avoid the confrontation for the resolution or not? Confrontation being, do I change the way I think about what I'm willing to do to maintain this job?
Again, therein lies the critical thinking process.
There it is.
That if we miss that critical thinking there, we will make a judgment, we will make a decision that is in many cases not in our own best interest.
And because that criticality exists, hey, we keep using the word critical, because that exists, it compels us now. It compels us. Love compels us to acknowledge all possible resolutions. This is what thinking, critical thinking, and here's the key word, reasoning, bring into the equation. Reasoning. What is in my best interest? What is in the best interest of the relationship structure within the company? Because if one employee is rebelling against the supervisory responsibility of the boss, the other employees in the company are looking at this confrontation and learning from this confrontation.
Again, that takes a whole, see, that's the ability to look at the bigger picture.
Precisely.
Okay.
And our sense of survival is predicated on that capacity to not only look at, but absorb the meaning and purpose of that bigger picture. Because every single time we establish our capacity to adapt, adjust, and achieve fluidity in our environment is reinforcing the trust and confidence we have in ourselves to do that. Because we love ourselves, we internalize that.
Okay, but see, here's the point. If we don't understand the bigger picture and how we fit into the bigger picture, we will love ourselves into unemployment.
And because that possibility exists, that quote unquote fear exists, do you see now how they both are operating together to clarify for us the significance and the meaning of this purpose, of this moment's purpose in our intellectual as well as our organic growth. Intellectual, because we're now seeing all of the complexities that can exist from the perspective of what's necessary for the company and me to move forward and resolve this, as opposed to not moving forward and resolving it. What is essential to me in my ability to start thinking like a manager and a boss, quote unquote, would think, because isn't it about upward mobility? Shouldn't I be thinking about my...
Again, all of these things that you're thinking about have to be meticulously navigated with other influences. And in many cases, those influences have a tendency to override logic.
Because you now are being compelled to separate the way you are emoting, experiencing this emotion, from the way you feel about it.
Well, let me give you an example. I'll give you an example. Let's leave the situation there.
Okay.
The person has been asked to do something that somebody else hasn't been asked to do. And there's a thought that there is this impact that is like, why am I being asked to do it versus somebody else being asked to do it? And now I'm making a decision based on what somebody else hasn't been asked to do, irrespective of the fact that I've been asked to do it. Well, and I'm spending more time in the fact, focusing on the fact that somebody else wasn't, rather than the fact that I was.
Now, when you step into the office politics that you're describing, then a key component that comes out of this is going to be the overarching issue about everything that we're discussing, mindfulness. Mindfulness. How aware are you of why and how you're organizing your thoughts? You're orientating yourself to the expectations and the circumstances and situations you're in, and you're operationalizing. Operationalizing in mental health means you're making it happen. That's what decision making is. How you bring all of those together, why, how I organize, orient, and operationalize, is your thinking, critical thinking, and reasoning. It is what is giving you the central acknowledgement of what is your attitudinal assessment of what is my purpose and meaning for being in this place and this circumstance at this precise time and moment.
That's coming from a logical and a very informed awareness mindset.
And that is because in your instinctive pathway, remember we have 5 of them. First, there is survival. Secondly, there is reproduction, the ability to constantly have the confidence you can survive. And what we're talking about right now in the specificity of this statement is your emotional connectivity, your emotional connection, your emotional connection. Why are your emotional connections so significant? Because your emotional connections are your alert mechanisms telling you that something is happening that you need to pay attention to. That just noticeable difference.
I'm all with you. But
and now
ultimately, you got to make the right choice.
And you make the right choice because of your 4th instinct, which is your growth and development, or your cognitive, developmental, behavioral alignment. In essence, your growth and development is your interactive mindfulness of the meaning and purpose of the circumstance and situation you are in. René Descartes, a French philosopher, is quoted with the statement, "I think, therefore I am," that illustrates the meaning and purpose of an interactive mindfulness. I think, therefore I am. I'm defining myself by my thoughts. If I'm getting all bent out of shape because I'm being asked to do something that somebody else was not asked to do, there are 2 ways I can look at that. I can look at that as the boss now has confidence in my ability to do this and is coming directly to me to get it done. Or there is some kind of favoritism that may be going on here. Either way, how I want to interactively become engaged in this process is going to define for me the interactive mindfulness of my ability to do that. Because see, I have a choice to make either way.
But yeah, and the thing about it is, I'm saying there in that broad sense, even if, look, here's the thing, even if there is some favoritism in there, it has to be able to be measured against what your own best interest is.
Exactly. And within the context of your own best interests, it's going to be counterbalanced by your resolution and resolve to follow your own best interest. Because Descartes' statement, "I think, therefore I am," is reinforced by "I am, therefore I think." The moment I define whom I am that person in every circumstance and situation, I think.
And therein lies the power of love, because it comes from a choice of being able to say and to go through that process and to say that I'm going to choose to take the way that's going to be in line with the best interest of the better me and those around me.
And in so doing, on you on a microscopic scale, the individual, on a mega scale, the entire organization, you have just kicked us into your 5th instinct, which is transition and transformation. I transition away from the fear that I had about all of the elements, all of the idiosyncratic stuff that was going on here. And in so doing, I transformed my entire attitude about what role I now play in this environment, and the synergy and the synchronicity of this environment. How am I contributing to this organizational structure? Since we're talking about organizational leadership, how am I figuring into that process now?
Yeah. And again, it goes a lot to do with understanding who you are, what you are, and purpose.
And once you understand that, do not lose sight of the acceptance that must take place. See, once I understand who I am, my mindfulness of that understanding makes me whom I am by accepting it. I now know my, if you want to put it in blunt terms, my emotionality. I now know it. I now know what my emotions will predispose me to as an alert structure. Once I know what I'm emotionally connected to, I can mindfully engage in any circumstance or situation I encounter. That's why your third instinct, emotional gratification, becomes so significant. I now know the message of my emotionality.
There, what you've just stated is if you back out of all of that, find ourselves unsuccessful in our relationships, unsuccessful in our employment, unsuccessful in our health, unsuccessful in our own development, is because you've basically summed it up in a sense of our inability to be self-aware.
And because, look at what the term self means: systemic emotional link to feelings. As a system, your emotions link you to your feelings. If you don't, as a systemic alignment, resolve that link to feeling, see, emotion linking you to feeling. Notice it does not say emotion feeling, link, emotional link, a tie-in to feeling. If you don't resolve that, you will continue in this struggle. This is what in mental health management is called an approach avoidance conflict. The closer you get to something, the more you wish to avoid it. And you will do whatever is plausible, necessary, and meaningful to you, or abnormally grounded, to do exactly that. The closer I get, the more I want to avoid. You cannot do what is sometimes considered the ostrich mentality. You stick your head in a hole and let it go by. Because here's the interesting thing, without getting too vulgar about it, because this is a PG rated show, the lower you put your head, the higher you elevate your butt. And you figure that one out.
Again, and look, the concept there is that it allows you to be disconnected from that which is necessary for you to be able to thrive in this thing called life, by sticking your head in the hole and giving the old adage of the sign to life that you don't want to really engage it.
Exactly. You know, you've sometimes, and this is when we're stepping an individual through, and when I say we, again, I'm going to emphasize the fact you want somebody who is a certified therapist doing this, because you're now dealing with something that's going to be at a core level for this client, you know, at his or her base functioning. When we finally get an individual to the point where they can see the separation between emotion and feeling, it is that eureka moment, big light bulb over their head, when you now realize that there's a distinct difference between control and management. A distinct difference. You can argue for control all day long, and here's the rub: you'll never be able to control anything you encounter, because control is not designed for that. You cannot adapt, adjust, and achieve in control. You can manage your sensitivities and your sensibilities. You can manage your situational awareness and your self-awareness. You can manage your productivity or your lack thereof by acknowledging that it is always going to be the choice that is far more significant than a decision that you make. I choose to do this. And by choosing to do it, I fully commit to the integrated acknowledgement of its meaning and purpose. That's what we're talking about.
And therein lies how much is going on in a choice. In a choice.
In a choice.
In a choice. How
In a
much
choice.
is actually, I make it very simple when I say something. I talk about it long. I tell you about it. I said a long time ago, I had a pastor who said, choices are long-lasting, life-changing. Long-lasting, life-changing. And the implications there is that it is so much involved with a choice that you don't even know the ramifications of it long-term yet. So all the things that you do, you need to be sincerely astute and understand that it's going to have an impact. And we have to understand what we do today is going to be impactful to our tomorrow. And understand that having a hot head today will typically not serve you well tomorrow.
It typically will not. And it typically will reinforce for you the frustration and the irritation that you experience when you finally come to the realization, pop in your forehead, I did that. I caused that. Now, see that accountability and that responsibility, that acknowledgement of that synchronicity between the choice and the decision is why it reinforces the significance of what you mindfully establish as your choice. You can consider the plethora of options you have available, but once you choose something, that is the subconscious acknowledgement of what is going to be your reactive formation. You have just told yourself, this is how I will react. And you have formulated a systemic way in which you make that happen. This is where the choice now becomes the decision. That reactive formation. I will react this way when I encounter that. And what does that mean? Because I have the ability to think, therefore I am, and I am, therefore I think, that cognitive and that behavioral alignment. Because I have the ability to see that, I can be that. In effect, my emotional sensitivities, my sense of emotion becomes my belief expression. I see it and I be it.
The processing of being able to understand what you're sharing. As you were saying that, as you was talking about that, I think of a formula that I have used as I relate to getting from starting with my attitude all the way to my outcome. And it's those things that will determine my actions in between there that will denote what that response or that outcome will be. And it's deemed on various, and I talk about there's things about options. When you change your perspective, your options become different.
Oh, yeah.
And that's basically what when you begin to change your perspective, your options become different, which in turn allows you to see opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to see that could be beneficial to you. And with that being the case, now my actions are now in line with what I see as another option for my outcome to be beneficial.
That is why reasoning becomes that composite piece in your thought process. I think, critically think, reason. I reason. Mindfulness is the elevation of that reasoning. I become mindful of what now becomes, and here's the thing that reinforces for you why it's so significant. Because once you define what something is, how it is integrated systemically, integrated as a system, once you define what something is, you are not confused by what it's not.
Absolutely.
You know what it is. This is why that saying that people, they throw it at you all the time. It is what it is. You're absolutely correct. It's integrated systemically because it is integrated systemically as a system. It has a function.
This morning I woke up writing, I was talking about life, and I was talking about life is what life is. And I followed that up with something that I talk about so often, and I was like, life ain't fair.
No.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And for us to be able to think that that system is going to change for us, for an individual, it ain't gonna happen. The experience in the system has already been established, and we're just a participant in it.
And the interesting thing about it is, because I look at it when you say that, it is what it is. That means that it is a fixed experience in the perception of our reality, a fixed experience.
And all we can do is adapt.
Adapt.
And that
adapt.
causes, that creates change on our part.
Mm-hmm. And it
on our part.
Not only change, but elevation on our part. We adapt.
Well, again, that's what change is.
That's it, exactly.
That's what change is. I mean, it's again, this comes back to another saying: anything that ain't growing is dead. And so that's that changing of transformation that allows growth and change. I mean, it's all inevitable. You can't take transformation out of growth. No. And you can't take growth out of transformation. You can't take them apart from each other. They're integrated. They basically are there for the purpose of you maturing, developing, growing, changing, transforming. I mean, if we need to look at a caterpillar to know that this is what life is all about, it's about that transformation.
It is.
And we look at that and we go like, man, how simple is this thing? He does a metamorphosis. I mean, he actually does something that nobody else does, and that is he changes metamorphosis. He goes from a ground element to a doggone a flying one. But the fact is that he changed. That's a part of it. That's a part of his makeup. He can't. His life schedule, his lifespan requires change.
And because like ours. In that change state of transformation, look at what he transitions. He moves past structural limitations. He moves past the significance of fear and doubt. He moves past any inhibitor to his belief or her belief as a system and as an integrated composite of transformative energy. I can always do that.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, if you just think about this, what you just said, this is what love does to us.
Exactly.
Is that it overcomes all of your objections to change and tells you that transformation is inevitable with it. With love, your change is inevitable, and it tells you you have everything that you need to overcome it.
And the moment, and I'm talking about the specificity of the moment, right now, this right now energy, the moment you do that, you become that. And you're never confused about it afterwards. So go right back to your Bible verse. Perfect love cast out any fear you have. Because in that moment, you have elevated yourself beyond fear. I now know the emotional energy that fear gives me to do this. So I use that energy to become it. I actualize it.
The practical application of love.
And you asked if they coexist. Yes, they can coexist. And yes, they do coexist.
But it's in the whole purpose of being able to grow, to transform, and to be something greater than we are.
And in that context, look at the expansiveness, look at the capacity for growth and development that it provides for humankind. Go and have dominion over all that it is you see. This is what having dominion over all that it is you see means. You coexist with it. You just manage its vibrance and its congruity within the context of whom you are becoming. And your interactive mindfulness constantly reinforcing that there is no impediment to my progress that I don't have the ability to overcome. You know, an individual can be born without arms and will learn to write with his or her feet. An individual can be born with any kind of what we would see as a structural limitation and still have the motivation, the consistency, and the confirmation of trust and confidence in themselves to not only overcome it, but excel within it. You tell yourself to be yourself and don't be surprised when you are. That's what this teaches you. This is the emotional gratification, that third instinct, now becoming the actualization of belief and congruity in system management. That is your fourth instinct. I think, therefore I am, therefore I think. And once I have harnessed that power, once I become that all spark, I can create any universe I choose, because any universe I choose is in the palm of my hand.
Because, and again, that's what we do to overcome limited beliefs. That's what we have to come over any challenges that we might be confronting, whether it be in our finances, in our relationships, in our health. These are choices that we now possess that power of love, that those attitudes, those abilities to act in alignment with that perspective that gives us this type of view on any situation. And that's powerful. That's transformative, but that's also a choice. You've got to be willing to make that choice for yourself.
And that is so significant in realizing the moment you acknowledge the role that in early childhood development, I'm talking about point of conception to roughly 10 years of age, why it is so important that you mentor and nurture that organism, that individual organism's ability to adapt and adjust to this process. Because right around the age of 5 to 10, when the cognitive abilities, the thinking and the critical thinking abilities begin to coalesce, the attitudinal alignment of meaning and purpose is also taking shape. Out of that window of time, 5 to 10, you're going to see core beliefs, principles, values become the structure for core decision making. And when I use core, I'm talking about your centralized orientation to realistic events / emotions, how you systemically align yourself to the meaning and purpose of everything you encounter.
And those experiences are shaped by our parental guidance.
Again, why it's so important.
You can't dismiss that.
No, you cannot. You can run away from it, but you can't dismiss it.
So I mean, I hate to keep throwing that axe at the bottom of the tree, but the fact of the matter is that if we don't know this stuff, We don't know what it is that we're having to adjust.
Exactly.
And yet we think that our experiences are normal. They are normal in the sense that they are truly your experiences,
Mm-hmm.
but they are inconsistent with the system that was you are created to be vibrantly involved in.
Until you get that clarification.
Yeah.
Until you get that, and you really again, we spend so much time with prenatal care. We start once the arrows line up or it turns blue, we start talking to people about what it's going to mean in the structure of this existence, the role you have. That's your meaning and purpose. That is what is parenting. That's your meaning and that's your purpose. They have told us for years it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a child to raise the village, because you give the village its meaning and its purpose. You are redundantly reinforcing what for eons has been the way in which we progress through these 5 instincts.
And it's so critical in the fact of understanding our individual and our collective purpose. When I say collective, I'm saying that's the bigger picture, because as we develop our own uniquenesses that are being shaped in our early stages, because they're indeed our uniquenesses that we are employing as we're being developed, so that we can see the bigger picture.
Yes.
But if we don't have any inkling that there's anything bigger than ourselves, we're stuck, we're lost in this journey called life, in a very small perspective, being manipulated for the most part by those who understand it, the bigger picture, being defensive about that which we don't know.
And therein lies fear.
And defensiveness.
And fear, obviously, elevating that sense of defensiveness. I'm afraid, what was it? President Roosevelt saying, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The moment you have defined what your fear is, what is your fluid emotional alert to the reality that you're in? Once you've established, I keep doing those acronyms on you, I'm sorry. Once you realize what your alert is to this moment, you are now situationally aware of its limitations, because that's all a definition is designed to do for you: limit something to a meaning and a purpose.
So that you can at least put your head around it and be able to address it.
And address it. And how you address it is by that, again, adaptation, adjustment, and achievement that is strictly behavioral.
And it's and to do that, you got to confront it.
You got to confront it. You have to confront your fears. I don't want to sleep in the room without the light on because there's something under the bed. Okay. It's not a Twilight Zone episode. There really is nothing under the bed. Because if it were Twilight Zone, I'd stick my hand under there and then there'd be something under the bed and the kid would say, see that, I told you so. No, you have to challenge it. And you have to, at the moment of its presentation, acknowledge it. I have to do this. I have to make that decision. The boss has told me, you got to do this overtime project. I don't want to do it. But in the larger scheme of things, the necessity that I do it is apparent, because I'm now being evaluated by my responsivity to that challenge. How well I do this will determine how favorably that evaluation is going to look at the end of the day.
Again, we're gonna work on this and dig into it a lot more, because those are the practical things that we need to be more sharing But again, it's in spite of what that potential evaluation will be. And I'll talk about it. I mean, I used to work for a place that I knew that they didn't want me there anymore.
Mm.
And I went and I put myself in a position that I wanted to dictate when I left, though.
Right.
So to be able to understand that the writing was on the wall, you got to be able to read the tea leaves.
Exactly.
And then use the time to put yourself in the best position that you can for yourself. Just because you know they don't like you, don't mean you need to cut your nose off to spite your face.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so that is something that you really have to understand, that it really ain't about it ain't about them. It ain't about how they're going to evaluate you. You've got to also understand your position in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not the one writing the checks, you really don't have a determination as it relates to how much they're going to write yours for.
And there you go.
Okay. And so if you looking for something, like I say, this falls under life ain't fair.
That's right.
It ain't just because you did this and they didn't do that ain't got nothing to do with what you agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
That's
I
right.
think we need to understand that love allows you to see in spite of how somebody else is going to view and evaluate you. Because if you put your line in alignment with love, you don't have to worry about how they're going to evaluate you, because you're going to be putting yourself in a position where maybe it's just, this ain't the place for me.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I'm going to be doing what's right in my best interest. And if it's not in alignment with this organization, it's somewhere else.
And by virtue of having that sensitivity and sensibility about that decision, you have now just precognitively aligned yourself with what to look for as you're driving down the road. This is why they tell you, your rear view mirror is smaller than the front screen of your car. You should be looking ahead. Don't be looking behind you. You already learned that lesson.
Look, that's a good lesson in so many areas,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of never go back. Never go back. Especially, and I'm talking to myself now, because this transcends situations.
Yeah.
Because it's in all areas of your life. If you learn that there's nothing in that's in your best interest, dibbling and dabbling in it ain't gonna help it. Ain't gonna change it.
No. Mm-mm.
It ain't gonna change it. All you need is, like you said, that cognizant awareness that it ain't in your best interest. Then it's up to you to now put that in your rearview mirror. But it's not easy, and I'll be the first to tell you.
Again,
people
they struggle. They constantly struggle, and it's one of the things that sometimes in the darkest moments, when we as therapists, like, close the closet door and start yelling and screaming, why can't they get that? Because you don't want to say that in front of them. Can't do that. Unethical. That separation from emotion and feeling. People have been so woven into thinking that there is no break between the emotion and the feeling. There is a significant break. Let them do their individual job and accept that they will do their job, and you be able to see that by them doing their job, you can do your responsibility to it. You can internalize it. Because when it reaches that point where it is what it is, it's there for a reason.
Hey, and the thing about it is, you have to be able and available to accept the fact that it is what it is.
What it is.
In spite of whatever your feelings might be involved. And I tell you, this is across the board in life.
Exactly.
Across the board. Whether or not your feelings are involved or not ain't gonna change the reality of that it is what it is.
And the beauty of it is, And you don't have to like it, and that's the beauty of it, because again, from an acronym perspective, logical, integrated, fluidic environment, life, logical. You can understand the logic of that. Integrated, it's going to tie itself into everything that you are going to do because you are living life. It's fluid, it's constantly moving, and it's always, always, always going to be about the two major components in your life, you and the environment.
And look, and you've got to adapt because it ain't changing.
It's not changing. Life is lifing.
Hey, we have had a blast today. I don't know if everybody else has had such a blast that I had, but I mean, it has really awakened me to a point of understanding that, hey, this journey is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It's consistent. And we've got to be committed to it and committed in understanding the system.
Yeah.
And when we're doing that, man, this clarity, this thing gets clearer and clearer. And it'd be like, man, it's like having the cheat code in the test. And you'd be like, man, can't they see this? What this is, man, I'm gonna tell you, this has been a good time.
Oh yeah.
I hope everybody else has had as much fun as this as I have.
As we have had.
It has been a pleasure being here and sharing. I mean, look, fear and love coexisting, having a purpose, but ultimately knowing that if you choose to remove fear with love, it's up to you.
That's right.
It's up to you.
It's always going to, and that's the singularity of it. It's always going to be you. It's your interactive mindfulness. You do this. You do this. You own this, in essence.
Well, look here. Everybody, if there's been anything that has helped you through this, hit us a like. Get us a like. And subscribe if you have not already subscribed. We run a little bit over, but the fact is that when it's good, it's good, and then when it's good, it's good. Okay, you can listen back anytime, but always decide to come back and spend some more time with us next time. If you want to reach out to either of us, you can just give a holler, go send an email to info@clearjourney.org, and in your subject matter, just put Dr. Brock or myself, and we'll get back to you, letting you know that there are ways that we're here to help in any way that we can. Also, remember, go back over to clearjourney.org if you have any other questions, and subscribe. Become a part of our member of our group, of our organization, of our community, by joining our YouTube channel or coming over to our website and just stay in touch with us. All righty. Until next time. You got anything, Doc?
Hey, be safe out here. Be safe.
All righty. Until next time, like I said, we can't change life, but we can surely help you navigate it. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching this episode. Take a moment to head over to our social media platforms, connect with us, and leave a comment. We'd also love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, head over to clearjourney.org for more great resources. We'll see you next time on the Philosophy of Love podcast.